Sorry, I accidentally stopped the video. So let me go ahead and set up the camera, and you guys can see exactly what it feels like in the back of a 1994 Cadillac Sedan DeVille. Plenty of hat room. There are cigar lighters in each of the armrests. I'll show you those in a second. I have plenty of room. Even if I was sitting back here, I still have enough room. And I'm 6'3", 270 pounds ish. And it's comfortable back here. It's well appointed. Armrest, the usual fare. Vents, the oh shit handles, and little lights and stuff. So this is basically the back of the 94 Cadillac Sedan DeVille. And we're gonna go to the front, and we're gonna go take it for a little spin because I'm starting to bake back here, like a spring chicken. So hang on. Oh yeah, by the way, cigar lighter, ashtray, the kind of stuff that like maybe your grandpa or something had in their car and you remember as a kid. And I don't know, it depends on who's watching. A lot of people probably just grew up with this and this is a standard thing, and a lot of people probably have never seen that before. So we're gonna go jump into the front. Before we do, first thing I want to kind of get into is that the interior space is kind of big. It's there. You got the fake wood and the usual chrome stuff. What this car did lose is a lot of like really chromy stuff. Like the previous generation, all this would have been either fake wood or piano black interior or some kind of chrome. This stuff right here, the switches and whatnot. We're gonna go fire it up. Another thing I love too is the old school dual wing kind of GM lock cylinder that they've had literally for, since 1970. And also, you have two keys, and they have the Cadillac wreaths and stuff on them. This one has a chip, so that makes it a little harder to steal, but it's not that terribly hard. And then you feel it. I love the clicks that the lock tumbler gives you. It's very kind of familiar and refreshing. Now the problem with this one is that it idles pretty damn high, and that I don't know why it does that, but it's something with the fuel injection, I assume. This car has had the power steering pump redone. He's had some work done to the front left. He's had the air conditioning fixed. Oh, another thing I want to show you. Each of the seatbelt buckles, they're this typical GM corporate buckles, but they got the Cadillac wreath in them in the buttons. One of the things I did love about this car is that it did kind of retain most of the previous generation, the 93 and previous. Everything's just a little bit different. So the 93, the dash is just straight, just rectangle as hell. And on the newer versions, the 94s to 96s, they kind of kept that same style for the most part, but they just rounded off a few things and they gave it that little arch to give you a little bit more of a display thing. This one does have the digital dashboard, which I find is kind of cool. Gives you all sorts of information, like everything you could probably think of. So we have, you can set it to metric or English, and you can turn off the display if you like. So you just have the speedometer, and then you have, let's do information, so fuel used, the timer, oil life meter, average miles per hour, average miles per gallon. I just filled it up and reset the average miles per gallon too, so We're going to keep it on average miles per gallon. And then this is also your range, and you can get instant or average fuel economy. Instant. Right now we're 0. And that's the reset, and that's the trip reset. It's got 149 rounds on it, so it's not really used and abused yet. This is your climate control, which is actually working fairly well right now. It's not super cool, but it's cool enough. And you got the typical corporate GM tape deck, which is another familiar sight for me. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there we go. I don't know. There's something that, like, seeing this kind of sparks all sorts of memories, and I'm kind of like overwhelmed by them a little bit. You know, it just, there's something about, I don't know, riding around in my aunt's old Monte Carlo or something like that that kind of brings that back. So a little bit of nostalgia. Another thing too I love about these cars is that I don't know if I can get a good picture here. It's hard for me to see, but the steering column is your typical 80s corporate GM steering column. This steering column, at least on the outside, I don't know if they changed around the internals, but the outside looks exactly the same. It has from pretty much 1982 all the way up till now. 82, I mean, because that's when they started using the multifunction switch, which breaks a lot, but it's easy to fix. It's all plastic. They used to have like the black outside and the chrome on the inside. The previous generation would have a chrome tilt lever, and the knob would be like a cylinder, like black piano panel cylinder. And then same thing with the shifter. They went, in the 90s, it was a big thing to be, for American cars to be more European, and European cars to try to pass off as being more American. So a lot of companies, especially Ford and General Motors, they decided to go all black instead of chrome with everything. So like on the 03 on up Panther platform cars, Crown Victorias, Grand Marquis, they would always have black shifters, black turn signal switches, black door lock knobs, body color door handles on the inside, and I just never really liked that. And that's what I don't like about this particular car, because it has the potential to be that much cooler. And also, down here, you can see it's got the old school, like those brake and gas pedal pads have probably been used since before I was born. And back in the 80s and the 70s, you could actually get a chrome piece that would go over the 3 pedals. And Cadillac had a chance to do that here, and they did not. But yeah, there's plenty of leg room, plenty of hat room. The car feels like you're sitting in your family living room, pretty much. Just a very loud, noisy living room. And this car is kind of loud, only because I'm assuming it's an exhaust leak. It's gotta be. And then when you goose it a little bit, it kind of stumbles. So there's something in the fuel injection for sure. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go for a little ride. We're in scenic Kenosha, Wisconsin right now. And I love that you can look out over the big expansive hood still and see that hood ornament there. So now, as far as the Sedan DeVille as it falls into the grand scheme of things. So if you're a young up and coming executive, it's 1994, and you're looking for a vehicle. So what are your options? You could go all out and get the Cadillac Fleetwood, which is much longer than this car, about the same width, and about the same height. A little bit wider, but about the same height. There you would have a big V8, rear-wheel drive, frame-on-body construction, and the Fleetwood kind of was more like, you know, world class executive kind of car, or like a retiree kind of car. You know, that was a total grandpa car. The Sedan DeVille that we're driving now is a little. It's like Diet Fleetwood. It's not as intense. So, and it's definitely not like a step down from this would be the Seville or the STS, and that was a little bit more wine and cheese than the Sedan DeVille. Still front-wheel drive car, but definitely did not have the little fake tail fins that Cadillac is known for. And it was a little bit more. That was definitely Americans trying to pass themselves off as being European. And so a lot of young urban professionals who didn't want to deal with the brain damage of a German car, or didn't really trust the Japanese as of yet, even though Lexuses and Infinities were far better in quality than, unfortunately, than the American cars. But I mean, not saying that these cars are totally unreliable. I'm just saying that the Japanese were better. So yeah, a lot of people did choose this. They wanted a Cadillac. They wanted to let their friends and co-workers know that they have hit the big time. And you know, no matter what decade it is, except for recently, you were kind of measured as a person by what kind of car you drove. There's a reason why cars are different makes and models and brands and colors and options. You know, you drive a Range Rover because you want people to know that you can drop $100,000 on a vehicle, even though it's going to spend most of its time on the tow truck, and you don't give a crap. You just, yeah, that's how successful I am. I bought that, and that's what people did with this car. They bought it because, you know, it screams that, hey, you're doing well in life. That being said, also the Cadillac wasn't like super out there either. You know, there was enough of them out on the road where you weren't like celebrity status for driving one. You were just merely like, oh, well, he's doing pretty well. So, one thing I noticed about this car as we're driving, as I'm rambling on about useless information, it's very wandery, and that's probably because of worn out suspension or something like that, but it's all over the road. The steering wheel is also cocked to the right, and I'm feeling a lot of, like, I don't know if it's a wheel bearing noise or something, but I'm hearing something like a grinding. And but even still, the car is doing fairly well. Since we've been doing a lot of idling, it's been showing 9.7 or 10.1 average miles per gallon. But on the way up here, even though I reset it and I was still on the expressway or the highway, I was getting about 20 average and 33 instant. So it has enough punch and it has enough road manners and efficiency that it's kind of an all-around car. You know, you figure Cadillac is a big gas guzzling, you know, V8, and this thing is no Prius, but, you know, 20 to the gallon is not terribly bad. And then also you make up for it because you're driving kind of a substantial vehicle. So some of its American competitors, the Lincoln Continental, a Ford, basically a overgrown Ford Taurus, front wheel drive, all four airbags. And those were kind of okay. It's basically up to a matter of taste, which one you like better, whether you're a Ford guy or whether you're a GM guy. And then the Chrysler had the LHS, which was their first year. They did the cab forward design where the windshield is and the firewall is set farther out towards the hood of the car. And basically mostly Mitsubishi derived, for better or worse, usually for worse. So between the three, if you're going to go big three and you're going to go front wheel drive premium sedan, Cadillac has got to be the best option. It's just the best option. It's the most reliable of the three. You're going to get the least amount of brain damage, and you're going to get the most brand recognition. You're going to get the most street cred, I guess, quote unquote. So, other observations. I mean, it still retains that everything that makes a Cadillac, or at least in my opinion, what a Cadillac should be. It's got that big fat bag of donuts ride, that sloppy, not sloppy, but it's got that ride like, am I even still recording? Yes, okay. It's got that ride like you're driving a living room, basically. And you can do it basically with one finger, just here. And you can keep this car centered on the road. You just point and click wherever you want it to go. It's got enough oomph where, back in the 60s and the 50s, Cadillacs were fast. They had the horsepower to go. The speedometer went up to 120 or 140 or whatever it was, and you could use every inch of that goddamn speedometer if you wanted to. This is not a muscle car, but it's at the same time, it's not like a Malaise era, like 79 Fleetwood with the diesel where it gets like 20 horsepower. This thing does have some pep to it. In a second, I'm going to go ahead and try to see the 0 to 60 time, real time. I didn't look up what the specs were. I know this 4.9 liter is 200 horsepower, 270 something foot-pounds of torque, so it's got some oomph to it. It's almost kind of like Chuck Norris wearing a tuxedo. It's got the guts to back it up, but it also presents itself in a kind of a regal fashion. So, you're getting a daily driven 25-year-old car like this. It's going to have some issues. So you got some lights on. The right turn signal blinks fast because there's a grounding problem in the back taillight, and also one of the bulbs are out. The recliner seat switch, I'll show you in a second, has fallen into the seat. Cruise control still works. I haven't tried the wipers or anything. I still got to show you guys the trunk too. I mean, the trunk is filled with stuff. Like, most of the stuff was in the interior, and I put it in the back because I wanted to sit in the back seat and show you guys how roomy it is back there. That's another thing over the Continental and the LHS. This thing, as far as rear seat room, it is, I want to say it's the king. Not by much, but it is definitely, well, we're not going to be able to do a 0 to 60 on this thing because we got, a Pilot in front of us, and my philosophy is not all bad drivers drive Honda Pilots and CRVs, but all Honda Pilot and CRV owners are bad drivers. Now, I know some of you people out there, Alyssa, I'm sorry, I know you drive a Pilot too, and you're actually a very good driver. There are some outliers, but all in all, generally, that's the rule of thumb. But yeah, so I got a little bit of time left before I get home, and that's when I'm going to end the video, after I show you the trunk. So if you can bear with me a little longer, I know I'm starting to ramble and go on, but I mean, compared to 25 years ago, my outlook on my view of these things are way different. This is actually a car I could see myself kind of driving. I still am not a big fan of the front-wheel drive aspect of it, but I'm not technically really vehemently opposed to it either. It's just, it is what it is. Oh, another thing. This, you have a a car phone. This is like some of you youngsters probably are like, what the hell is that? You know, like, what is that thing? And back in the day, people would use their phones, and like you would have your phone. You wouldn't have a cell phone. All your phones would be basically tied to a landline, and the cell phones that you did have them technically, but they were like these huge, basically the size of a brick, and some of them had like bags and stuff, like a World War II, army phone or radio or so. You have to like crank the thing up. Like, mayday, mayday, we need air support at vector 2, whatever. You had to, the technology wasn't there. So what a lot of people did was they had an actual car phone installed into their vehicle. You saw this in a lot of BMWs, a lot of Audis, a lot of Mercedes, especially in the mid to late 90s, or late 80s, early to mid 90s, let's say. So I don't think it works. But it is kind of cool that just the fact that it's there. You have cigar lighters pretty much everywhere. Well, not everywhere. There's I think 3 in this car. Back in the day, like I had a 68 Imperial, and the thing I loved about the cars from the late 60s through the 80s was they would give you a cigar lighter pretty much for every seating position on the car. You had one there, you had one, in the fucking passenger armrest, you had one on each back armrest, you had one in the back of the front seat. So, you can picture a bunch of, Madison Avenue ad executives with their fedoras on, riding around 6 deep in a, in a Fleetwood or an Imperial or a Continental, just smoking cigars and drinking cognac. So this car does kind of capture a little bit of that. Not fully on like that, because it was just a different day and age then. Back in the day where shoulder belts were an option, and there was no such thing as in the early 70s there were airbags on some GM products, but they were kind of why would you need that? It's like the mentality was different then. It was like, how fast does the car go? How cool does it look? How many people or stuff can you fit in it? Safety? Who cares? The car can do 140 in the straightaway, but the instant you try to stop or steer, you just blow up. That was the mentality back then. So. But yeah, I am definitely impressed with this car. It feels like a big, a big car, but kind of wrapped up in a mid-size body. And that's exactly what Cadillac was going for. And they pretty much hit it out of the park. There's the fast blinking signal. Alright, I'm going to stop here for a second. We're going to go 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6, 1,000, 7, 1,000, 8, 1,000, 9 seconds. 0 to 60 in 9 seconds. And, this car does have some fuel issues. It was stumbling pretty much all the way. When you open it up wide open, it doesn't know what to do with itself. So I'm going to have to tell the owner that he should probably have that looked at, and also the high idle. This thing idles really high, and it wants to just accelerate into the things in front of it. It just wants to just run right up the ass to this Mazda 3 and send it in to meet its maker, But, it passed the test. On a scale of 1 to 10, overall, just the car, this particular car, I give it like a 7. As far as mechanically and the upkeep of it, not upkeep, but the overall status of the car, I give it a 5. I mean, there are things that can definitely be improved upon this car. As far as the 94 Cadillac Sedan DeVille itself, you know, if it were in pristine condition, probably going to give it an 8. I mean, it's a likable car. It's got curb appeal. It checks off all the luxury malaise era boxes, you know, for the most part. Handling, I mean, it's Cadillac. Give it a 5 or 6 out of 10. Acceleration, 7 out of 10, give or take. If he fixes the issue there. Ride quality, 9 out of 10. Fuel efficiency, 4 out of 10. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. All right, guys. Well, before we go, I'm going to show you the trunk because I wanted to show you guys that. Before we do that, I'm going to hit the trunk button. And I wanted to show you guys this before I ring off. So, don't worry about that stuff in there. Like I said, it's a daily driven car and you're going to have stuff in the vehicle. But I wanted to show you this. So this is it's like a soft close drawer for your kitchen cabinets. So Cadillac has a little electric motor in there, and when the trunk opens, it kind of comes up, and then it waits for you to close the trunk, and then it gently sucks it back down into the area it is now. And they've been doing this at least since the early 80s, maybe the late 70s, and just little things like that are what really make me appreciate this particular vehicle and Cadillacs in general. And another thing too, I forgot to show you, I don't know if this one has it, where
it used to work. I don't.
Oh, okay. So I guess it doesn't work, but you can slide the emblem out, and then there's an actual key lock that you can use to pop the trunk. So, guys, thank you for watching Cruise Control. My name is John Cruz, and you guys have yourself a great day.